My name's Layla Singleton. I'm 35, born in 1978, and I was born and bred in Chesterfield in Derbyshire. My mum, she had two children. I've got two sisters that are 12 and 14 years older than me, so I kind of grew up, it was like I had three mothers. My mum was, she worked part-time on a market stall, but she was big into, you know, charity, and she used to run brownies and that sort of thing, so she spent a lot of time sort of helping others. And my dad was a plumber. So he worked, you know, quite long hours. We didn't see that much of him really. So yeah, it was like, because of the age difference, I was kind of, it was almost like I was an only child, you know, and my two older sisters, you know, they helped look after me. So, and as a family, really, we were quite religious. I've got a cousin who's like a priest, and my uncle's very religious, and we were actually Catholic. We were actually Methodist Christians, so it was like every Sunday, you know, I was going to church. I went to Sunday school, used to take scripture exams, that sort of thing. So it was quite a, you know, a grounded religious family as I was growing up. Well, Methodists, I would say, out of all the different sects of Christianity, Methodists are quite relaxed and open. You know, it was fun at church. I did used to enjoy it, and socially, you know, we did a lot of social activities as well. The Holy Trinity was something, obviously, that was preached at you know, at Methodist church, but it was something I always struggled to get the concept of. And obviously, I understood that it was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But then I was taught about Jesus in Sunday school. But then I was confused that Jesus was God, you know, because I learnt about God, and then I learnt about Jesus, and then it's like, but it's the same thing, and I never understood the concept of it. And actually, at 4 years old, I had a really powerful dream where I actually went to heaven. I died in my dream, and I went to heaven. And I got there, and you know, and I saw the beautiful garden and flowers and birds and all this kind of thing. And I was looking for Jesus to greet me, you know, because obviously from my teachings in Christianity, you know, I you know, prayed to Jesus, and you know, and this sort of thing. And so I was looking for Jesus, but Jesus wasn't there to greet me. And actually the garden was empty where I was walking, but an angel came to me and said that it's not Jesus that you need to go to, you need to go to God. And in my heart I knew where I had to go. I was like walking forward, and I had to go to God. And I was basically walking, and at that point I woke up, and I still remember, I was 4-year-old, and I still remember that dream. And I woke up like feeling all over my body, and I was saying to my mum, like, am I alive? I've just been dead, like, you know. And my mum was like really freaked out by this dream. And I told her, you know, I recalled that I was looking for Jesus. I couldn't find Jesus, but I was going to go to God. So my mum actually spoke to the priest about it, and he said, although he didn't understand the dream, that it was a blessing that I had a dream that I actually went to heaven. So that was a concept that always stuck with me, that, you know, that when I died, I was going to God, I wasn't going to Jesus. So, you know, it was quite a significant part of my journey to Islam. So before I reverted to Islam, I didn't really know that much about it. The only perception I had is from what I saw in the media, and obviously it was quite negative. So I guess, you know, due to my own ignorance, my perception was quite negative about Islam. Like, I thought, you know, it was all about jihads and you know, all about violence and this sort of thing. And so it wasn't until I actually researched and, you know, looked into, you know, the fact that Islam was a religion of peace. And then when I began to meet other Muslims, when I took my Shahada, you know, I was really surprised at how peaceful and patient and calm, and, you know, what good characteristics Muslims had. So I guess it was then that I realised that the perception I had all my life about Muslims was wrong. And I guess now, with me being a Reaver and me meeting, you know, other non-Muslims, you know, and I talk to them about exactly what Islam means and what my religion means to me, you know, and they're surprised. So I think the more people that talk about Islam in a positive way, you know,
know, the better. Unfortunately, like I say, just from what you see in the media, is not always the case of what Islam is about. Obviously, since taking my Shahada, I got to meet, you know, lots of other Muslims, and they welcomed me with open arms. Like straight away, I felt like I was part of the community. They were really, really supportive with me. And in terms of my social life, you know, alhamdulillah, it's been great because there's lots of social activities going on, you know, inside the masjid and out, lots of community fundraisers and things like that, and it's just really nice to be part of a community where, you know, the people are all like-minded, you know, they're all good people with, you know, with good morals, and it's, you know, it's really nice to be part of that community. When I was 10-year-old, my family home separated, like my mum left and my family home separated, so we had a lot of hardships. You know, I went from a very secure religious family to, I lived with my dad and my stepmom who, you know, who weren't really religious. So at that time I started suffering from depression, like, you know, coming up to about 13-year-old, I started suffering from depression, and I kind of felt lost. So through that journey, I was looking for something, you know, I was looking for like an answer to, you know, to the problems that I'd got. And so I did a lot of searching. Like at school, we did like religious studies. And so I looked into a lot of different religions. Like when I was 16, I looked into Hinduism, and then I looked into spiritualism, and I actually married when I was 18, a son of two spiritualist mediums. And so, you know, from there on, I was looking into, you know, to that for an answer, and my journey took me to Canada. They were actually Canadian, so I moved to Canada, and my best friend was a Native American. So I looked into Native American beliefs, and her grandmother was actually a shaman, and I spent a lot of time on the native, you know, the native reservation, doing sweat lodges, pipe ceremonies, and you know, and I appreciated the concept that, you know, the God was the creator, and the creator created the universe, but still it wasn't enough for me. Just going once in a while to, you know, to the reserve and doing a sweat lodge, it just wasn't enough. So basically, my circumstances changed. I separated with my husband when I was 21, and then I came back to the UK. So I took with me, you know, all the beliefs that I'd got from, you know, my Native American friends, but you know, I kind of let that go, and then I was still in a period of not knowing, you know, what religion I was. I was about 30, and somebody said to me, you know, why have you ever listened to a Quran recital? And I'm like, no, you know, Islam is like something, even though I love Arabic language, like Islam is like something, a religion I've never looked into. So the person said to me, well, why don't you just listen to, you know, a Quran recital and see what you think? So basically, I listened to you know, the first Quran recital in Arabic, and I just had a life-changing experience with it. Even though I couldn't understand the language, it moved me to a way that I was elated, but I was in tears. I was like absolutely sobbing, and I had a really overwhelming feeling. It's really strange, but it was almost as if something entered me, you know, it was that overwhelming, you know, it was like something was inside my body, and I just felt overwhelmed. And I couldn't understand what it was, or why, you know, why I would feel so moved, you know, just by listening to the Quran. Like it basically stirred my soul, and I was alarmed by it. You know, I was like, why am I having this experience? And it was basically from there that I bought a Quran in English, and I read it front to back. I read the whole Quran. And that was my first experience with Islam. It was basically just listening to the Quran, and actually, even when I still listen to it now, I have the same feeling where it's almost like a vibration that I feel, and it actually stirs my soul and almost hurts my heart. It makes my heart heavy, and you know, and still now, like subhanallah, like, you know, every time I listen to Quran, like I have the same experience. So you know, it is just the word of the Quran is so powerful, you know, that it can, somebody who doesn't know anything about Arabic, anything about Islam, you know, can become so stirred and so drawn to Islam. The day after, I got a copy of a Quran, an English copy, and I was just, okay, I really need to look into this religion. I've throughout my life, Islam has cropped up and I've dismissed it, and basically through me being stirred by listening to Quran, I decided, right, I'm going to read it. So I basically just opened the first page and just started reading, Surah Al-Fatiha, and basically just read. I couldn't put it down. I just read and read the Quran. And I was just, first of all, I was really surprised because I thought Islam was something so different to Christianity, thought Allah was completely different to God. And then when I started reading Quran, I started reading about Prophet Isa, peace be upon him, Jesus, Moses, Angel Gabriel, and when I was a child, all the studies that I did, I was suddenly reading and I was shocked. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realise Islam was it was about this, and obviously the concept of there being only one God worthy of worship, that was the thing to me that, was like, yeah, Islam is for me, because, throughout my life I've never accepted that Jesus and God is the same. I loved Jesus, and then when I read that Jesus was a prophet, a messenger of God, I could totally accept that. I wanted to become Muslim, and I sort of kind of tested the water a little bit with, some of my family members said, I have been reading Quran and, and I want to become Muslim. And obviously at the time it was post the 9/11, and basically the portrayal in the media was just the only thing you learnt about Muslims were, the terrorists and, and all this. So that there was a bit of fear, within my family and with myself to, a certain extent. And so, I mentioned it to my family, and they were basically, no, don't do it. It will ruin your life. If you become Muslim, why would you want to do that? And at the time I thought, yeah, maybe I can't do it. So I became like a closet Muslim. I was listening to Quran in secret. And I actually ended up in a relationship with an atheist, and so religion was something in the relationship that I, was never discussed. So I used to, in the car, I'd listen to recitals of Quran, or I had my Quran hidden away, and it was something that was always there in the background. But throughout my relationship, it was, if I mentioned anything about Islam, it was it was totally shunned upon, and it was really difficult because it was I couldn't be the person that I wanted to be, and fundamentally. In the relationship was flawed, because if you have different beliefs with somebody, how can you be a life partner with that person? It just didn't work. So my depression throughout that relationship, it got worse and worse, because I was basically trying to be somebody who I wasn't comfortable with being, and the fact that I wanted to be Muslim, but the people around me didn't want that for me. They thought it was a bad idea, and I was just fighting myself, for 5 years. It was something I wanted to do. And it wasn't until that relationship actually separated, and I had, it ended up being quite a violent relationship, and it was a horrific breakup, and it was a point where I should have just, shattered to pieces. And I picked up the Quran, and I started reading Quran every day, listening to Quran recitals, and my friends actually commented, you're doing really well, you appear to be really strong, and and it was day by day listening to Quran, and literally gave me this strength to a point where I was on all these heavy antidepressants. I was like a zombie. I was falling asleep all the time, and and this sort of thing. And it was probably about a month of listening to Quran daily, and I just thought, do you know what? I don't even feel depressed anymore. And it is literally through having this time, reading Quran, I felt like it cured me to a point where, I thought I don't need to be on the tablets anymore.
This is one of my snakes. I've actually got 2 snakes now. Is a ball python. But before Islam, I actually had a lot of reptiles. I had like over 50 reptiles, and I was, used to listen to heavy metal music, and very different from the person that I am now. Obviously, he's a reminder, I guess, of my life before Islam. But obviously, with my old life, there was a lot of sadness there, a lot of depression, and this sort of thing. Islam has given me an inner peace and given me a calm that I didn't have before. And obviously, with snakes, I find they are very calming. So, even though I'm Muslim, I'm still the same person that I was. I'm just a calmer, more grounded person. Islam is very practical, for people of any walks of life, whether you just suffer from depression or, whether you were a happy person before, it can only benefit your life, with the inner peace that it gives you. Islam is very practical for anybody, no matter what your hobbies are, no matter what walk of life you're from, to have your faith, and your beliefs in life is a guidance for life. And for anybody who's thinking of becoming Muslim, it can only better your life. Every single revert that I've met, it is the beginning of a very exciting journey, to discovering yourself. And before Islam, I didn't even know who I was. I was so lost, whereas now, I still like my reptiles and I'm still the same person. I'm just more happy and more content. At the time when I realised that I wanted to accept Islam, I'd still got a lot of doubts, and the doubts were from what I'd seen in the media, or I did it, I researched, and I looked into all things like, Islam oppresses women, you're forced to do this, they stone women, they do this Sharia law, and I was so frightened, because I'm like, okay, well, I found my belief, I found something I really want to do, but I'm so terrified of Muslims still, And so it was basically through research, through talking to people, that I realised that actually Islam and Muslims are different. Islam is perfect, Muslims aren't. Don't confuse the two. And that there is cultural differences with Islam. Like with Islam, there is one race, which is the human race. So it doesn't matter whereabouts in the world you come from. You're united. Your brothers and sisters in the Ummah, and you're united with Islam. So obviously, some of the bad things that I was reading about were certain cultural practices, but was not what Islam was about. Fundamentally, Islam is about peace. The greeting, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. And it's not a religion of hate. It's not a religion of fighting. And for example, jihad, it just installs fear in people. I studied and I learned that jihad is actually a battle, within your own self, in the name of God. So it can be various things, you can be battling your own nafs, like your own desires, or so basically I re-educated myself of what actually Muslims were, and then it was at that point that I was ready to, coming up to taking the Shahada. In the process where, I was started listening to Quran every day, and I realised that, I wanted to become a Muslim, and I started upping my research. I was just, watching YouTube and, all sorts of research on the internet. And then I actually came across, I looked at people's shahadas, because I heard about that's how you became Muslim, you took a shahada. So I'm like, okay, right. So I watched different shahadas, and there was just this one shahada in particular, where there was a sheikh with a British brother, who was actually a black brother, and he was taking his shahada. Beforehand, the sheikh asked the brother lots of different questions, and I'm stood at the sink and I'm washing my pots, and and I'm listening to this, and I was just so moved by this shahada. I ended up in tears. It was really emotional, and all the questions that the sheikh was asking the brother, I was thinking, yeah, I truly believe all those things. So as I'm washing the pots, I basically just took my shahada there and then. I started reciting, copying the
what the sheikh was saying, and then that was it. So I felt from that moment I was officially a Muslim. So it was a real it was a real big moment in my life. I think there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of soul searching, especially in this day and age. It's a time where a lot of people have lost themselves. They don't really have a purpose in life. And for people who are actually doing some soul searching and looking into religion, with Islam, it's something that people fear. But if you take the time and open-mindedly look into Islam, you'll see what a practical religion it is. I mean, scientifically, it's proven that 1,434 years ago, it was written how babies were born. We only knew that like 100-200 years ago scientifically. There's so many facts that it's a practical religion. And if people look into it with an open mind, I think people would be very surprised what an amazing peaceful religion Islam is. I basically got a date set to take my Shahada, and I was really scared because I never met an imam before, I'd never been to a mosque before, and I'd already started wearing hijab at that time, which was quite a difficult process in itself, like breaking it to my family and work and that sort of thing. So by the time I took my Shahada, I was already wearing hijab. So I went in, and as soon as I walked through the doors at the masjid, I felt like I came home. I just felt so welcomed by everybody. I met all the sisters, they all hugged me and kissed me and all this kind of thing. And I took the Shahada, and I've never felt so right in basically sat down and saying those words. It was perfect. The moment was just perfect, and I was like, this is the start of the rest of my life. It's a new me. I've had I had a new break. I've had a chance in life, and this is it from this moment. Like, my life changes. And after that, I sort of swapped numbers with the sisters, and they took me upstairs to the madrasa where they were teaching the children. And I stood and prayed Salah with the children, which was the first time I prayed Salah in congregation. There was about 40 children. They were all excited because, I was a new Muslim, and I basically stood there praying with them. And it was just so overwhelming. I was crying. As I was praying, I was just crying, and I was just like, this is just so amazing. I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. Islam has basically cured me from being lost. I was lost, and I feel I was guided and I was found. So Islam has given me the capability to beat my depression, to come off antidepressants and be the person that I want to be, and better my own character. What more could I want from life, than